So, generative AI has been leading all the news lately. So, in this episode, we're going to talk to Pinar Seyhan Demirdag, co founder and AI director, about the fundamentals and where this technology is going. Pinar leads a team of creatives and developers at her AI production firm, Seyhan Lee. She has been working with AI, though, for since the early days of the technology. So, it's really exciting to have you. How you doing, Pinar?
Thank you, Ray. It's lovely to be here in your presence. I'm doing so well.
Thank you so much. So, a lot of people are just sort of, I feel, waking up to what these tools can do. They've seen them just about everywhere, in the regular news, in probably their day to day lives. Yesterday, my daughter was starting one of her classes, and they had something on ChatGPT, like how you can use it, and I'd never seen that before. So it's really permeated just the entire culture. So it's really cool that we have somebody like you here who has been doing this for a long time. You provide generative AI training to agencies, production companies, and global consulting firms. I think probably doing sort of these similar things, introducing people to the technology. Can you talk a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing over the past decade?
Yes, absolutely. I accidentally found myself in the center of the creation of generative AI back in 2018. 2017, Google, together with NVIDIA and independent researchers, stacked their research on top of each other to bring us what ChatGPT 3 or um, OpenAI or Midjourney, DALI, whatnot is. And one of the main models that Google discovered in 2017, called Future Visualization, that builds on the work of Deep Dream of Alexander Morvintsev in Google. They were trying to mimic how human mind works. Like the
Hmm.
moment of, let's say, I'm going to bring my beautiful mug here. Ray, if I were to show you this as a glass, you
Uh-huh.
would say, "Is this a glass? Is this like a water container?" Linear computer, when you say this is a water container, linear computer says, "Okay." And then when you show this, is this a water container? Linear computer says, "No, only this is." But what happens with AI is that you create a data set and you teach AI what water containers are, liquid containers are. And AI, just like the human mind, because you're trained since childhood what a glass is, what a mug is, you are able to define a mug out of a fork. So Google tried to mimic that very second with artificial neural networks, with generative AI. And what they discovered, the moment of neural networks capacity to build features of an object look like my body of work as an artist. So I was an artist for 13 years, doing my own thing, having museum shows, partnerships with brands. And all of a sudden, I found myself being summoned up by the world's biggest technology company because they invented generative AI, generative art, and it looked like my work.
That's
So that
amazing.
was really, yeah, it's really a one in a trillion life altering moment in my life. I have absolutely no background in code. I lead a team of engineers together with my work partner Gary Kepke. We still to this day don't understand a line of code. So probably we will talk about the future of jobs. And all I want to let people know is that you don't need to have a background in coding in order to lead a firm of AI. And to answer your question, like one of the highlights, like a few highlights that we did, we're providing creative services to marketing creative agencies, production companies, and film studios in how to integrate generative AI in their creative productions.
Hmm.
We did really cool films. Did the mission statement film of Star Atlas, a metaverse video game. We did an amazing film for Beko Connections that won. This is the Star Atlas film that is a combination of their VFX, Unreal Engine 5, with our AI. We did the Connections film for Beko that brought us. Beko is used to be. They're not a small company. They used to be the main sponsors of FC Barcelona,
Hmm.
the soccer company, the soccer club, and so yeah, this is a glimpse from the AI film we made for them. It's a mix of live action and visual effects provided by AI, generative AI. and that won us the DNAD in visual effects,
Mhm.
emerging technologies last year. So as being the first brand funded AI film out there, which is like really happy news for us. We do small to middle to large scale projects, and I believe we will be talking about it in the next questions. We also invented the world's first generative AI tool for film production, Kubrick.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's like what I love about your story is that uh, it seems like generative AI found you, and it was really early on. This is a while back. This isn't something that happened last week. You were just being an artist, and all of a sudden, Google gives you a call, and you will go straight into this new thing before anybody else got a chance to even know what it was. So before we get going too much, I do have a poll that I did, and I want to get your thoughts on it. It's been running on LinkedIn for a week or so, and I asked people, and you guys can go vote. You can see the link right here at the bottom right. Which industry will create the most revenue and opportunities in the future using generative AI? By far, I think people voted for tech over everything else. But there's
Mhm.
been a lot of news about the medical industry using generative AI to like find new cures. And there's also a lot, obviously, you come from an entertainment background. What are your thoughts on this poll? And maybe you can talk a little bit about what people think versus the reality.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, my point of view will be biased because I'm absolutely swamped in entertainment. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I do, generative AI and entertainment. And I believe when you say entertainment, that includes art, design,
Hmm.
imagination, filmmaking. So it's a music. So it's a super comprehensive umbrella. And if we were to talk about technology, there was a time where pens used to be technology. So
Wow.
I believe that generative AI will come to a point where it will no longer be a technology. Like, I don't dare to say that internet is a technology anymore.
Hmm.
It's just it. So right now,
I,
so my point of view would be like, I agree with this poll. Only if tech and entertainment were to be one, which I consider them one.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably the problem with the poll itself, that it didn't sort of differentiate. So trying to ask a question, you can only like four options on LinkedIn polls. But I think that I would probably, when you look at the question itself, which is all about opportunities, I think you're right. Like
Yeah.
right now, tech gets the most press. Medical and entertainment, I think, are going to be huge. And in terms of what's going to generate the most revenue, I mean, you can argue with entertainment, like some of these movies make millions and billions of dollars. So that's obviously, I think, a great opportunity. Plus, medical also, some of the drugs that get made and some of the stuff that those things are going to generate a lot. So maybe
Well, it's
something to
only in
revisit.
medical, but also like generative AI is being used in design, fraud detection, optimization, e-commerce, coding,
Yeah.
gaming.
Hmm.
So these industries also embraced early generative AI.
Yeah, I remember the days where the internet finally had sort of broken through, and nobody could do their job without it. So that also was a really interesting moment for me. So let's go ahead and sort of start out by asking just some of the questions that I thought of about generative AI. Can you define what generative AI is to somebody who maybe has just discovered it? Maybe they ran into that video when my daughter was taking the course and they saw that question about blah, blah, blah. Don't use, I don't know if the video actually said don't use ChatGPT or use it a little bit. Like, what do you tell somebody who runs into it and they think, oh my gosh, computers have finally become human? They're going to take over. What do you tell them?
I would, like, good question. I would definitely bar the sentence humans, computers are becoming humans. That's like
Hmm.
the most dangerous area that we shall avoid, because I will get into that later on in the conversation. But let me show you some tools that we have been used to.
Hmm. That's
Liquid
right.
container, a pen, and headphones. Our relationship with these three tools are of the same nature, which
Mm.
is linear. I, the creator, decides to do something, and uses an extension of their body, which is hands, to pick them up and execute the function that this mind has taken into consideration.
Hmm.
Whereas what happens with generative AI is that it's the first time in the history of humanity that tools are generating while humans are supervising and curating.
Hmm.
So it's what we are doing is that we are doing the work one time, which is creating a data set and an algorithm. It's
Hmm.
like making a product. You spend one time I mean, the product always evolves, but you do an initial investment, and then you have several companies and people that are interested in your product. So your initial investment pays off in time.
Hmm.
It's similar with generative AI. You spend a great deal of time, usually working with open source code, building on the research of other people, and you make a tool. And what happens is that that tool generates things on its own with
Hmm.
your guidance, with your initial input, with your initial algorithm.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of like I compare the process a lot to babysitting. So
Oh, that's
it's
great.
like dealing with babies. You know, it's like, no, that's not correct. Better do it this way. No, you should try it this way and that way. So it's basically like how it is optimizing my own time as a creator while using, for example, ChatGPT or like image search. It would take me a great deal. Like I do decks and like presentations to people all the time, and it take like I have an image in mind that is like super specific, and I
Hmm.
want to sell my product to a client by showing exactly that type of image. So where this generative AI tools help me is that I can obtain the exact image I am looking for by guiding the machine to create something. Let's say I want a pink tree, and when I write a tree, the machine generates a green tree. I'm like, no, 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 I want a pink tree with pink elephants on. So you can go as a you can co-create with the machine with as much precision as you want for the machine to create.
Yeah, I think one of the struggles has always been that communication between, the conceptual artist and then translating that into something. A lot of times, even the things that you end up doing aren't quite the things that you thought you had in mind. So you have an idea, you translate it into some sort of layout or design, and you go through a process where you go, oh, that's not exactly what I was looking for. I need to insert some things here originally. Like, and I feel like when I'm talking to ChatGPT, the thing that I love is that it's it's like having a conversation with either myself or this AI, and the AI ends up being a tool that is helping me generate what I have in my mind, and it just gets me to where I need to go quicker. I think a lot of times it might be misleading that you see these amazing images and maybe you see the prompts. Sometimes I think the prompts are simplified. The way that you get to great art with ChatGPT is by having that conversation. It's a process, but it really
Mhm.
helps you, like you said, like a tool, like a pencil is a tool, and you could create some sort of art with that. This new computer's generative AI is really just a tool to generate all kinds of things. So, can you talk a little bit about the training process for the generative AI model? I know that I don't do any generative AI programming. One thing you mentioned was that the important thing is that ChatGPT is actually an API. It's not just the website that you go to and you type things in. It's actually an API that you can do things with. So, can you talk a little bit about the process for training these models? How is it able to I found myself like thanking the chat GPT window and I am like, why am I thanking the computer? Like, it's just a
Yeah,
computer.
as humans.
Right.
Well, before
Yeah.
starting that, if I may, like
Hmm.
I would like to talk about really like how can I say, ethical and fundamental
Hmm.
questions
Hmm.
that, in my opinion, needs to be addressed as people currently that are having brain gymnastics with advanced technologies. It's the
Yeah.
first time in the history of humanity we have a tool that is generating content with our supervision. So unless we understand our priorities straight and the roles that we give to each other, that has the danger uh, of turning us into lazy beings.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is that, for example, we were looking for a headline for our company, Seyhan Lee. We work with film production companies. We make
Hmm.
cool stuff. So I wrote to ChatGPT like, here is what I do. Here is how I express myself. Can you please find me a tagline? God awful. It was the worst thing that anybody can ever say. Like, it's like so linear and so crude and so, how can I say, so uninteresting. So if I were to be like, oh yeah, ChatGPT has the answer to it all, I would be normalizing mediocrity.
Mm,
I still call my best friend, who's a copywriter, an amazing, talented copywriter, Sarah A1. I still called her, and she still worked on it for 2 days to come up with something genius.
mm,
So these tools, like, though they are generating pictures, that doesn't mean that they're generating quality. So we
correct.
shall, as users and as the makers of generative AI tools, we shall at all times prioritize quality and human vision and human capacity to transcend over any content that these technologies can create. And answering your technical question, again, I'm not a I will be answering with my just enough knowledge to run a generative AI company,
Hmm.
technical knowledge, not like an in-depth, super technical knowledge. So we do, ChatGPT uses NLP and a variety of other different AIs in order to come to where it's at. All I
Hmm.
can talk about is the different generative AI models that you use for motion picture creating, like
Mm,
a series of motions, like Midjourney. Midjourney is not a series of pictures; it's just a still, but like a JAX or VQGAN, Stable Diffusion, the Forum, GANs, Generative Adversarial Networks, Style GANs. These are different generative AI models that help in your process of creating out of the box novel visual experiences. And please ask if you.
Oh, absolutely. No, I was just thinking. I love the GAN models when I found out about them because they remind me of my families. So the concept there is you have like these two different AIs that are in conflict with each other to try to come up with an answer. So you tell one of them is always going, "I'm going to give you a picture, like you mentioned, of a glass," and the other one will tell it, "No, that's not a glass." Like you, just like you, what you were talking about earlier on. So it's very much like my family were when we're arguing, we're saying this is this, and they're like, no, that's not it. So that is a really brilliant concept, and I think it speaks to how it is so. It appears to be so human-like because it's all the algorithms that you use are the way that we figure things out. I watched one of your old videos saying that some of these things were actually created a long time ago. Some of these mathematical models, some of the things that we're calling generative AI now that we think were just invented have been around for quite a while.
Yes, absolutely. Like the I call it pixel soup. The way GANs are made is like you create a data set of, let's say, 20,000 images of cars, and GANs turn it into a pixel soup. It's like all over
Mm-hmm.
the place. All pixels are all over the place. And then it comes out into the wide open, where you have a discriminator, where the real cars are introduced, and the discriminator says, okay, these pixels belong to the real cars and these pixels belong to the soup.
That would be
So
like my uncle would be a good discriminator. Like if you could grab
yeah,
him and talk to him, he could train any AI on being really good at that.
well,
So
it's
yeah,
actually, like, look at the name, artificial
yeah.
intelligence. Humans model their tools after themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, like, where else shall they look? Where else other than nature or human kingdom that they look? Of course, they model the tools after themselves.
I
But
think
these
that was the
models,
brilliant thing about the about generative AI that it's not like when you're programming you kind of like have a goal and you work towards that goal. No, this thing is actually attempting to sort of help computers see things in the way that we see them, with the GANs, for example. And also, I know I used to work at a newspaper and I admired a lot of the artists that worked there, right? And occasionally they would have to do a portrait of somebody. So what would they do? They would go online, they would print out. I would see like a wall of printed out photos of the person, different angles, other drawings that people had done about them, and then they would generate original artwork based on everything they saw. But they always had reference, and we've done that as designers as well. Whichever artist you are, and I think maybe this is what looks so magical to people, you understand that process as an artist. It's very iterative. You inspire yourself with good things, and then you create something that uses, I don't know, take your brain. It's so weird because it's exactly what computers are doing. They're behaving like how an artist behaves, and that's, I think, maybe the breakthrough.
Yes. Well, to answer your other questions about these main models,
Hmm.
actually, it's a quite a complex process.
Hmm.
First, generative AI models, they're the original Genesis models. There are a few, like for example, GAN's Generative Adversarial Networks, written by Ian Goodfellow, 2014. Diffusion model, that is the basis uh, um, of DALI, which
Hmm. Stable
like clip,
diffusion, I think.
yeah, text to image models
Hmm.
have clip and then diffusion models
Hmm.
that are together on top of each other. So diffusion is like it's a paper written by Sasha Sol Dickstein in 2015. Another Genesis model I call, by the way, Genesis model is not a technical term. I made it up because without the basis of these mathematical papers, nothing can be done. And another model is a deep dream. I
Hmm.
don't know if you remember 2015, Alexander Morvintsev, this mad scientist that I had the pleasure working with from Google, came
Hmm.
up with this crazy model where you a computer could recreate images with dog faces. It was this like computer hallucinations. It was insane. 2016, it was like a
Wow.
global phenomenon. I don't know if you remember, but that thing was generative AI too.
That's amazing. So yeah, you're seeing I think the key thing is to know that these models are basically trying to mimic behaviors. And this, I think, why Google reached out to you originally, because they recognize, hey, this computer is doing, a work that is similar to this artist. Let's talk to the artist and find out what we can learn. They probably programmed something that maybe they didn't fully understand why it's behaving in a certain way. So that's part of programming too. You discover things and then you adjust. So that conversation I think you had with them was really important in determining how to make that better, and understanding maybe from the artist's perspective, you know, what is the process of creating something, from other original pieces. So I like that you're talking about the generative models. The you call them the Genesis model. I think it's a great name because all the stuff came from somewhere, and I always find that it's so interesting that it feels like all the papers for most of the things that we use today and we rely on have been made a long time ago. And whereas people are just finding out about these, I mean, some of this stuff is from decades ago, and you were in there with this. So
I swear,
speaking, oh, sorry,
Gary
go
and
ahead.
I, my work partner and I, Ray, we were like this for 3 years. We were
Hmm.
like, like how can I say? We were like the whole world will
What?
be shocked in 2 years. We were like just like waiting to get the ball to burst. We were like the
Uh-huh.
whole world will change in 2 years. When will it be? When will it be? And I think everything came down with Midjourney the most.
Mm,
Midjourney and ChatGPT, in my opinion.
yes. So yeah, it's. I think somebody talked about how quickly OpenAI, how quickly ChatGPT got to, like, I think 10 billion users is really quick.
Oh,
How they were able to, I mean, when you go there, even today, the site is not down all the time, but they have to like remove
yeah.
features because so many people are using it that, it's really taken over, I think, people's consciousness. So somebody running a generative AI firm, what are you looking for in terms of, a lot of people go to LinkedIn to learn, what they should be studying, or what should they should focus on? What sort of things do you look for when you hire people?
That's a very good question. I actually, first of all I know is that everything that I attract to myself is a reflection of myself. So
Hmm.
when I'm looking for to attract the best talent out there, I have to make sure that my belief system consists out of we attract the best team.
Hmm.
So I know that I'm talking about very spiritual things here, but I all I know is that I could change my life and build the foundation of a very successful company by changing my belief system about who I am and what is.
Hmm.
So Gary, my work partner, and I, in the beginning of our company, 2020, we're founded. So for 2 years, we know that we owe to the collective, like it's our honorable duty to set our foundation straight. We're a
Hmm.
cutting edge generative AI firm. And our way we will be educating the public about the place of AI and generative AI, we have to make sure that we prioritize the elation of humanity in our works and in our speech.
That's a really
So,
good point. I think that right now everybody is so excited that they're running into generative AI without maybe thinking about it so much. I do in some future episodes I have some ethicists and we'll be talking about these specifically those kind of things. So you look for people that are compatible, have that vision, that are maybe, I mean, do you find that artists or when you look for maybe a developer, are you looking for somebody who's maybe also an artist? Or maybe that understands creation, or what sort of like if I was a developer and I wanted to work in generative AI, what kind of things would you be interested in asking me about maybe in an interview?
very good question. Well, we're currently developing a tool and hiring in the light speed, I would say.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so every tool requires different segments of different talents, like a computer vision specialist, a machine learning specialist, a UI UX, DevOps, currently full stack, later on back end and front end. And actually, the I only ask one question. You know what? You just made me realize.
Hmm.
Can you stand up for your beliefs? That's what I ask always.
That is just the
Because
kind of questions that people don't know about that I think are the best questions. Like you're thinking, I've got this book memorized. I've list of all the things I accomplished, like all the languages that I know. But I think that question is much more important. It can tell you so much more about a person.
because it has to be aligned with the backbone of your company, and the backbone
Hmm.
of our company is freedom. Like at any
Hmm.
moment, you can say that I say bullshit. Like at anybody who works for me can say that, Pinar, what you say doesn't make sense. Like you have to reiterate your words. At any time they can say, you know what, you should pay me more, I'm working like double shifts. Okay, sounds
Hmm.
great. So that's why, like for example, we're at the process of hiring a DevOps person
Hmm.
for the tool we're building, and our head of lead technologist, he's a genius, like he's a
Hmm.
savant. He's, I would say, 24 years old, but he has experience of a 55-year-old. He's like one person is worth 10 people. So
Wow.
he has very like, he's amazing. So he has like difficulty communication. Like
Hmm.
he's set for ideas and he's like, this is how it's gonna be. So when we were hiring the DevOps person, the only thing I ask, can you stand up for your beliefs? Because you have more experience and more knowledge than our lead technologist. But at every time that you think that your opinion triumphs his, you have to stand up. You have to say, no, you're wrong. Can you do that?
That's
And they
a
said
really good
yes.
point. I think this is definitely a field that is in its early stages. And so just like when the web first came out, you were looking for people that were flexible, that understand or think about where things are going. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like that ability to question is not something that maybe a lot of companies ask for, but it's so critical in this stage of where generative AI is to have somebody
Mhm.
that's going to speak up when they notice something. That's a really great skill to have.
You know why it ties back to generative AI? Because
Hmm.
somebody that can speak up for their belief is a self confident person.
Hmm.
And if you are working with generative AI and you have no self confidence, you know what ends up happening? You
Hmm.
place generative AI on a pedestal in a decision making tool. You constantly require and request the guidance of the machine, which
Hmm.
unfortunately, in my opinion, would be the end of humanity if we do so. So if you're leading a generative AI firm or you want to work on a generative AI firm, you have to have extreme self-confidence. I mean, extreme, I don't want to scare people with my words, but what I mean, like a very healthy dose of self-confidence.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we talked about was that it's so important that what you're doing is you are getting computers to think like people too. So exemplifying those great aspects of when people can work together well is what you're looking for. You're really, since you are working with machines that are trying to be trained to think like humans, I think that you really probably need to go a long way into exemplifying the best sort of aspects of communication, which I think it is that, um, sort of not necessarily super self-confident, might not be all, like you said, it might scare some people off, but it's that ability to have the confidence that you're going to question people, because right now, those people that question others, I think, are going to be the ones that figure things out. That are super important for somebody to have. So I think, yeah, that almost like an entrepreneurial sort of skill, and also good communication, and the ability to think and challenge people. I think you get much better products when you're not just repeating not only what the computer is saying, but then also what maybe that engineer that is so good. You have to be able to say, no, you really need to listen to, or at least consider what I'm saying to get a better product. You can't, sometimes people are, I think that's one of the problems with ChatGPT. I was talking about this last week on the show, that sometimes ChatGPT is authoritatively telling you things, but it's also completely wrong. Like, it tells you something, but it's completely wrong. But it's saying it in such a way, like my dad does this sometimes with me. He'll tell me something with such confidence, uh, and I know that it's wrong, but I start to question myself. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not. So I think that right now where we are is ChatGPT is perfectly capable of authoritatively giving you wrong information, and you have to be that person that challenges the computer, because that's what it needs right now. Right now, the computer needs to be challenged into learning how to think better, which is a lot of times natural for us, but definitely if you don't have that confidence, that's a harder thing to do.
Yeah, you
So
know what the computers do not have? They do not have a mind like we do.
that's
Like our
right.
mind, ego mind. I'm not talking
Hmm.
about the God mind. I'm talking about the
Yes.
ego mind. The ego mind, for reasons that are very complex. I'm not going to go there right now, but basically for on basis, like reasons that have no basis, can
Hmm.
classify ourselves beauty and ugly.
Hmm.
Like somebody can call me extremely ugly, and I can believe that I'm beautiful. And somebody can call me extremely beautiful, but for reasons that are very complex, I can deeply believe that I'm ugly. So that's a confidence issue.
Mm.
Computers do not have that. So
And
they,
I would say that that's what we're trying to teach them. I think that's why it's so important to have that confidence to be able to question things, because this is where they have currently, generative AIs have a weakness in which they don't understand, the complexities of things. Like, they don't know right and wrong. And so the ability to be able to sort of at least challenge them with those things are really probably one of the most important things in looking for somebody that's going to be working for you. That's a great point. I love that. So
yeah, but egos, by the way, just to
they do have you.
make
I'm sorry.
that
Say
very
that
clear,
again.
because computers will never have egos, because that's ego. These are very celestial and consciousness based
Yeah.
qualities.
Hmm.
So we can never teach an ego. We can never teach emotions. We can never teach like feelings to a computer. That would be a fantasy.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of stuff going on with humans that I agree with you. Like, I don't know that computers will ever be able to be that. However, I think that they can definitely, save you a lot of times in terms of like tools and things that you do to make your work and life a lot easier. So, if somebody is interested in this industry, what are the job opportunities? You mentioned that you hired. We talked specifically about developers. You really gave me a long list of things. What are, besides maybe developer? What other things maybe do you hire for, or do you think that people might find a place in?
Yeah, currently, since we invented this filmmaking tool, invented, put together, developed, we're
Hmm.
looking for extremely talented prompt artists that create cinematic environments. And for
Hmm.
those that are not familiar with what prompt artist means, is that tools like Stable Diffusion, Midjourney doesn't have an open API, but let's say DALI and Stable Diffusion based tools like ourselves, Kubrick, require operators.
Hmm.
meaning we make it very easy for you. So all you have to do is to type words on a screen. But just because you can type words on a screen, that does not mean that what you will get will be cinematic and screen ready.
Hmm.
So these prompt operators usually come from an artistic or art history background, or cinema, or a DP background, director of photography background, because they have to understand depth of field, lighting, a baseline of aesthetics and stagecraft.
Hmm.
So yeah, with with every technology, did you know that in 1920s there was a job called knocker uppers, 1980s too, in England. Basically, a boy that you summoned the night before with a long stick,
Hmm.
and what you would say, "Hey boy, I want to wake up 4 a.m. Knock on my window."
That's
So
great.
this was before alarm clocks were invented. So with every new technology, alarm clocks, like some jobs disappear and new jobs emerge. I think like alarm clocks, which basically morphed into cell phones,
Hmm.
created really thousands, millions of new job opportunities. So we have to look at AI the same way. It's gonna diminish, or let's say eliminate, or lower a lot of jobs, but it will also create a tremendous amount of new jobs.
Yes,
So
I
that's why.
totally agree. And I think that the interesting thing is that you just mentioned something that people probably have never thought about before, that ability to describe things. I mean, a lot of people see, and this is where I think like a lot of times when I see prompts that people wrote, quote unquote, and then you see the results are like, when I type that in, I get something much more horrible. And like you said, there's actually a lot of technical aspects of maybe somebody in photography, maybe somebody that understands like, like you said, cameras, like lenses, depth of field, like perspective, like all those things that you are already using maybe in another job, can really help you. But then also the ability, like you said, artists I think are good at describing and conceptualizing and being able to modify things. Just remember, like right now, that ChatGPT is a conversation that you have. It's not like just a tool that's going to do everything for you. It's a conversation, and that I am not. I don't know if you're fantastic at this. I am not good at talking to the ChatGPT thing. It does not like it. I feel like it's not doing good stuff for me. I don't know what it is. But you know what
Yeah.
encourages me? I remember when I was in the newspaper, the, one of the designers, they did a lot of ads and they did a lot of internal promotion things. But when I watched one of the people that I respected the most, a graphic designer that was so good. His stuff was always the most beautiful. And I happened to be walking by one day and I watched him work. And when it was just getting started with a new project. Uh, the stuff that he was making at the very beginning, I was very encouraged that it was just as bad as the stuff I was making at the very beginning, because and I learned, okay, this is somebody who is a genius at design, but that conversation that he's having with himself, and I think computers are kind of what you're working with today, but that process of working through a design is something that I think artists will naturally understand. Like, this is why Google reached out to you. Like, you were doing the stuff that the computer was, or the computer was doing the stuff that you were doing. And that understanding of the process, I always tell people, listen, I have a few rules for design. Number one is, if you don't like it, it's not done. And don't show, my other one is like, don't show anybody something you don't like, because then they will pick it. So make sure that you show people only the great stuff, and then don't let anybody see you when you're getting started, because you have to work through the bad ideas. You have to work through and lay things out in the way that you think you want. But this is the same process for ChatGPT. Somebody who can, don't get discouraged that you, perhaps like me, who are just getting started talking to ChatGPT, get really bad things. You have to have a conversation, and after a while, I think that it's going to make, I think, better humans in a way, because we're going to be trained to thinking about what we are saying to the computer and reminding ourselves that sometimes, like, we have a picture in our mind, and when we try to communicate it, it doesn't come out right. I don't know if that happens to you. You have to, like, oh, that's not what I meant, computer. I meant this, or add this perspective or this depth. Like, all that, I think, are fantastic things that people think that they just have to be developers, and they really don't, right?
When working with generative AI, no, you don't need to be a developer to work with
Mm-hmm.
generative AI.
Yeah. So do you think that we'll ever get to a point where this kind of worries me in a way that I read something that said ChatGPT is not going to take your job. It's somebody that knows how to use ChatGPT that is going to take away your job. And so do you feel like there's going to be a point at which um, people won't be able to function without some sort of assistive sort of generative AI? Just like when the internet came out and, I remember one day nobody could do anything anymore because we were dependent on this new tool. Do you think we'll ever get to something like that?
I would like to assess two things from your question. First part is the fear part, because I
Yeah,
cannot move forward without assessing that. Have you ever been afraid of something and then you said it came true?
probably, yes.
Can we say all the time?
I
Anytime
wouldn't
I
say all
have
the
been
time,
afraid
yeah.
of, yeah, I would say 80% of the time in my life, whenever I was really genuinely afraid that something will happen, it ended up happening.
Hmm.
So what happens is that being afraid has a very powerful vibrational frequency.
Hmm.
So usually, whatever we are afraid of, even though they're baseful or baseless fears, we end up making them happen. So unconsciously, what we're doing while being afraid is that we're contributing to a reality that we really do not want. So being afraid works like an omen for the creation of that reality.
Hmm.
So as somebody that works in this field, all I would say is that if you would like to have humans in the center of AI, constantly iterate scenarios in your mind and yourself on how tools are helping you have a more comfortable human experience. I wouldn't say better,
Hmm.
because better is like it's all up to you. It's your own belief system. Your ego, your mind, and your heart decide for a better human experience. But tools definitely do help. Like my life is really more comfortable with the presence of a pen, because I want
Hmm.
to write, right? It's the same. Like, imagine, like, what do you think that steamships? We're watching like Titanic, how things were back in the day, steamship times. Like there was like 100 men or even 1,000 men that were. It was like a coal factory. Steamships were like a coal factory. If
Hmm.
they were to hear that there will be a time where a coal factory does not need to exist on the bottom of a ship, they would be like, hallelujah, hallelujah,
Hmm.
take it out of me. But I don't know how that would ever work. They wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to imagine, like conceive or recognize the possibility that a coal mine would not exist in the bottom of a ship for a ship to cross the Atlantic. So we're on that time. We're currently like, everything is speeding up so fastly that every year in generative AI, we're in between technology phase. So,
Hmm.
for example, VFX artists, like one of the things that it will really help VFX artists, visual effect artists in film, is that they're lighting scenes over and over and over
Hmm.
and over, the same scene, reiterate, reiterate, reiterate again and again. Like if ever you can teach an AI the lightning of a scene, all you have to do is to push one button.
Hmm.
Or, for example, you have dinosaurs that come back, or you have dragons that come back in movies. Like the dragon of a movie A is different than the dragon of a movie B. But if ever there's an AI that learns the skeleton system of every single animal, and all you have to do is to start by that basis to build on, that is helping a lot of your time as well in rigging.
Hmm.
So, to answer your question, will there be a time where AI will become a pen? Yes, absolutely. There's no future option where it doesn't become a pen. But all I am hoping for is that it becomes the pen to ease your life, that we do
Hmm.
it consciously and purposefully. If it becomes, whereas the other danger of generative AI is that it's also about not only generative AI but the whole AI umbrella, is that if we continue being afraid of AI, we will unconsciously position it in a place of power. So it would
Hmm.
be like, oh, Pinar, your home lock is locked. You know why? Because you didn't serve your jury duty. Oh, Pinar, you love it when your self-driving cars drive you. Well, you know what? The doors are locked and you cannot go to your mother because you didn't pay your taxes. Oh,
Hmm.
Pinar, you said something negative about the government. So our super intelligent monetary system that has to do with decentralized but yet centralized government, your bank account just is erased. because you
Yeah.
trusted that generative AI makes better decisions than you. So my decision as generative AI is to erase your bank account because you said something negative about us. So
Yes. I
we,
mean,
we're
that's a
really in a
very
very,
scary future. Yeah.
yeah, we're really at a fork. Those that are afraid of generative AI will be programming and accepting a reality where generative AI makes the decision and generates scary scenarios. And the others are embracing it and recognizing that humanity is in power and every technology, including a pen and AI, is there to serve us, not
Mhm.
us serving them. And make sure to code it and use it in a way where human elation is in the center of its development.
Hmm. That's super interesting. So we're sort of on this topic. Let's talk a little bit about some of the exciting things that you've been seeing. I have some slides with some content here that you
Yeah.
sent me of things that you were super interested in. So I'm going to play some of them. What are we seeing here? I love the
Yeah,
cat.
yeah, right. These are the works of other people, not ours. The
Uh-huh.
boxing and the weird creature and the girl with the car is the work of John Finger. He's a
Uh-huh.
director, one of the earliest adopters of generative AI in filmmaking. He's amazing. He's a friend as well. He's been experimenting with text to video. These are his experiments.
So this is a
So
prompt that actually generates video, right? That's amazing. I
yes,
mean, the picture of the
exactly.
lady with the car, it looks unbelievably cool.
I
So
know.
wow,
They're
that's
tiny.
awesome.
They're tiny animated gifs, but I believe in let's stay in this a little bit, but after this slide there's another slide I believe which has to do with the progression of generative AI between
Hmm.
2014 and 2022. If
You're
we
talking
were to
about
take
this right
that
here.
exactly if we were to take that as an example of how neural networks are taught by humans to improve and create almost not almost like indistinguishable images from reality as our
Hmm.
basis. So like just imagine what we will be able to do in filmmaking in 5 years.
Mm. Yeah, this is almost like the history of like I don't know the internet. Like first, it was just trying to be good enough to create something that looked like a person, but then once it finally got that, they're like, I'm just gonna put in make a somebody sitting down on a bench, like a totally normal looking person sitting down on a bench with somebody passing by. I mean, that 2021 picture looks so real. It's
I
like
know.
you just would never know that it wasn't generated because it looks like it's not trying to create like a model or some specific person with no blemishes. Like it's so good. That's why I love about it. And then 2022 is like all of a sudden generative AI discovered the internet and it started creating pictures of puppies and stuff, which is what I would do. Like a
Yeah,
person
me
doesn't
too.
care. Okay, you're creating people that are good enough. Let's do some cat pictures, right? So I love
Mhm.
this progression, and it really teaches you what's possible, and what maybe is coming. Because now, as you said, we have these examples of not just
Yeah,
stills but actual video. And I love the. Is that a
exactly.
Yeti or something at the bottom, like doing flips?
Oh, so
That's crazy.
that one is super cool. It is AI mocap. For
Hmm.
those that do not know the word, it's motion capture. It's basically the way like Avatar or any other film that features like monsters, creatures, like outlandish
Hmm.
realities where humans have like octopus faces or whatnot. So for it to happen, like a motion capture is a very expensive process. It requires several dots on your face, several dots on
Hmm.
your body, motion capture suits. It's like a yeah, very comprehensive tool set. So this company Move AI, which our company tried several different AI motion capture possibilities, and we decided that they are the best because they yielded in better results. They enable the capture of motion only by two, three, four, or even one, but it's just not good quality. When I
Hmm.
say good quality, I mean really good quality motion capture. So you can basically, if you want to make a movie with your kid, you just buy two iPhones. It even works with 8-year-old iPhones. You just
Hmm.
summon two iPhones, you set them up on a tripod, and you film your kid doing jumping jacks, and you can turn your kid into a furry creature at home for
That's
basically
amazing.
$200 or something. This is like
So
insane.
this is basically. I mean, yeah, you're right. And this is where I think we should look for opportunities in AI that if you remember a long time ago when you ordered something off the, not even the internet, a Sears catalog, it would take like 4 to 6 weeks to even get there. And
Right.
then somebody figured out how to make that more efficient. And what did we get? All kinds of shipping. Like shipping just became super pervasive. You can order something and have it be there the same day. I think that, you're talking about these tools that used to take a lot of time and money, and now people can do the same thing with like an iPhone. I mean, a couple of iPhones,
Yes.
like you said, and this is so impressive because it's like somebody said, "Hey, mocap, okay, great," but then I want it on a Yeti with hair in the snow while it's snowing. Really impressive. I mean, so I think that's the kind of innovation that you're going to see coming up in the future, taking these tools and making them do things that, maybe you would be concerned if you're a mocap artist, but it's just going to let people explode the amount of people that are able to use that technique to
Mhm.
create a lot more things. So it's going to be the same thing, just like we had, a little bit of shipping before. And now because we've made that easier, we're just going to have a lot of people be able to democratize into the technology. So anything you want to say
Well,
about either the cat or the this sort of other
yeah, the 3D
robot here?
creature, the one in the middle with a white background, it's a text to 3D model
Hmm.
called Clip Matrix, written by, again, a friend and a collaborator, Nikolai Yetsev.
Hmm.
He's actually an engineer in Zalando in Germany, and he wrote this insanely complex model in his own free time just because he wanted to have some fun. So I believe he's one of these like just comprehensive one person equals 10 type of people.
Wow.
But this text to video, it's basically he wrote, I don't know what he wrote exactly, but in the likes of tin can robot with
Hmm.
graffiti on his body, probably. But this text to 3D is also very exciting for me. Like Google, Nvidia, even Apple, OpenAI, they're all developing their own text to 3D or 2D to 3D models
Mm.
that
I think
are
that that's
gonna,
the
in my
exciting
opinion, will be
that's
the
the
mid
exciting thing
journeys
that
of next year.
I think that what you're saying is exactly perfect. That somebody who is right now, this person that is like a 10x person, that's going to be like us. That's going to be like just people
Yeah.
who don't have any programming backgrounds. You are going to be able to do what this person with an incredible amount of knowledge is able to do, and it's just going to be everyone. Everyone's going to be able to do this. So that's really cool. So let me show some more stuff that you were showing me before. What are
Yeah,
we
this is
looking at here?
Get. I believe it's the Get 3D or the what is the other model of NVIDIA? Get. I believe it's the Get 3D model by NVIDIA. They're working on the text to image models. So the way you're
Hmm.
like writing, make me a pink elephant sitting on Taj Mahal, and then with Midjourney you can get
Wow.
that, or with DALL-E, you will be able to do that with 3D very soon.
Yeah, so again, the thing that would take an artist and a skilled individual a long time to create, these models are just going to make it simpler to do, and then it'll free up, I think, those people to just generate a lot more content. So that's where we're going. So here's another example, and this was actually morphing while it's rotating. So you're going from like you said, not exactly sure, like different kinds of bikes morphing into other types of bikes, buildings. I mean, I think I've seen this one with the buildings create like an entire town and then be able to do like fly throughs in there. So, what about this one? This one was really
Oh
curious.
yeah, that one, the CEO of Google posted this, I believe, in November.
Hmm.
This is their, it's Penke plus Imagen. Imagen is their text to image model, and Penke is a video text to video model. It's a combination of both. Basically, what they manage is that they could write a short story,
Hmm.
line by line by line, and generate the story, visualize the story with generative AI. So this video is on the right, follows the script of the one on the
Wow.
left.
Yeah, and I know that it doesn't look perfect right now, but just look at where we've gone through and with the generated faces, and this is
Yes.
amazing. So, man, that's really exciting. And then you also sent me this one, which is really amazing. This is a commercial from McDonald's, right?
Yes, it is done by Karen.
Let me
She
start from the
published it
beginning.
yesterday or the day before. Yes, it's so amazing. It's the world's first uh, commercial that features NERFs, neural radiance fields. I would like to read you the technical explanation of what NERFs are. because it's super interesting. Based on partial input data, neural radiance fields can generate new views of complex 3D scenes. This means that NERFs can be used to generate new views of scene that are not included in the input image, such as different angles or perspective, or to fill in missing details in a scene, such as occluded objects or textures.
Hmm.
So their architecture, just for you to understand what I'm talking about in simple terms, you remember bullet time in Matrix? I have to
Yes,
slow
of
down
course.
bullet time.
Hmm.
It's based on photogrammetry, which is the basis architecture of NERFs. So
Hmm.
basically, something that was extremely available for high-end filmmakers or computational researchers is currently available in 1999, is currently available in 2023 in the hands of everybody.
That's
Like you
amazing.
can
So
make a
this is making some.
matrix. Yeah, you can make a matrix looking like a memory with your daughter, if you like.
Mhm. Wow. I mean, the quality on this thing is pretty good, and it's just doing these camera moves that are, I believe, pretty impossible to do. Like that camera move right
Yes.
there, where you go through the hand. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how you would do it. I mean, think about how hard it is right now to do something like that. It's like when you watch old movies and they all had like the fancy thing was to do like a helicopter shot, and now you could do that with like a $200 like drone or something. The stuff
Yes.
that's what we're seeing now coming in. So I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I wanted to get to I don't see a ton of questions, and the interview chat's not working, so let's just go ahead and move to some of the stuff that you're showing me here. This is so your company actually provides some content for people who other companies who are trying to figure out how to utilize this technology, right?
Yes. Since my background is in creative technologies and Gary, my work partner's background is in filmmaking and marketing, we have coupled up and teamed up and created this full day generative AI course for advertising agencies, companies, and um, how is it like? How would you name like what is Deloitte? Like they are.
It's a financial
mm,
firm. It's a financial
no,
company, or
like
no?
consulting
Consult. Oh,
firms.
yes.
Yes, consulting firms. I couldn't find the word consulting. Sorry. So what this presentation, this workshop consists about is the 101 of generative AI, the main
Mm-hmm.
models, the basic understanding of how things work in the morning, and in the afternoon we have an ideation session where people bring their creative ideas. We show them 120 plus different ideas, and then they run their ideas through
Hmm.
us. And after that, we end the session with an overview of all the best works that have been published with generative AI, and we
Hmm.
review them, like the do's and don'ts. Which ones centered AI and the technologies in the center of their narrative, and which ones
Hmm.
centered humans. So then
That's
we make sure that
incredible.
we avoid centering technology, and because it's very easy to create, how can I say, like phenomenal tabloid headlines to attract
Hmm.
attention. But then are they serving humanity, or are they serving a machine overload at the end of the
Hmm.
day?
That's right. And I really love this one slide that you have here with all of the different firms that are making the different sort of tools. So I think exposing people not just to the tooling, but then also how you should approach the tooling and making sure you put people first and humanity first in everything that you do. That's super awesome. And they can look that up at Seyhan Lee. I have to say, you're also making a course for us. So this is so
Yes.
exciting because basically we have at LinkedIn Learning, we have these what we call the flagship courses. They're kind of the most important courses in the library. Are always you usually see them as the essential training courses. So I'm super excited that based on just your background and your knowledge on this topic, that you are going to be doing a course for us. So make sure that if you're interested in this sort of thing, make sure you follow Pinar, and you can see her LinkedIn URL right there. If you're interested in continuing to watch things from this show, make sure you follow me and subscribe to this hashtag TFI Tech. If you want to learn more, we're doing a show each week. So I hope you can make it to all of them. I'm so happy to have you because you really helped me start up super well with some of my early, you're really my first sort of non-company guest. Last week, we had a couple of content managers who are fantastic. But what a way to get this thing started with somebody like you. Also, there's
Thank you
another
so much.
hashtag called, thank you, yes. Another hashtag called Learn Tech with LinkedIn. So that is, if you want to find out more about the courses at LinkedIn Learning, a lot of times we'll put in a lot of free courses at that hashtag on LinkedIn. So make sure you check that out as well. And finally, next time we have an amazing guest that is coming up next week on Thursday. So we are going to be talking about the intersection of generative AI and the software development lifecycle. We have our guest, who's Jerome Hardaway. He's the founder of Vets Who Code, a senior software engineer at Microsoft, and a GitHub star. Wow, a super technical person. I can't wait to nerd out. I'm so happy that I was able to talk to you today, Pinar. We kind of, we have this sort of passion for artwork. And I think, this generative AI, I've never met somebody who's been, creating generative AI from the beginning of, the technology, somebody that, worked with Google to make the technology better. I'm so glad to have you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ray. This was such a pleasure. And hope to see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.